favor of Core to be kicking off this series. I mean, Shift, this is Turtle Troop we're talking about on the other end. This is a team that has been in the discussion for one of the top teams, but to start things off, I don't even really know what to say.
Do I have permission to be like a little bit toxic?
Don't ask us. Don't ask us. You do you.
Here's the thing,
chat. I don't want to be canceled with Shift.
Here's the thing. I think it needs to be studied. B-Dog on Gecko may be an issue because he played Gecko in both maps against Challengers Esports in the grand finals and did not have a great particular series. He also doesn't get much done here. I feel like you're wasting B-Dog's potential when he's on a character like Gecko. I don't know what it is, but like when I think of B-Dog, I don't think of Gecko. And I'm not trying to say it's just him, it's just the Gecko, because Core was polished from start to finish. But why were they polished? They were finding a lot of value out of Nerve. And not saying that there was a skill gap or like a hero diff between the two, but I just don't love seeing B-Dog on this style of agent. It doesn't feel like he's comfortable on it.
Yeah, but I guess when you're looking at the end here for Core, how things worked out on their side, though, they had so many first bloods on their end. And you know how many that it was? There was like 7 versus how many? 0.
Yeah,
so
good
if
point.
anything, it's not necessarily just on Nerve. I mean, look at the plays that they were doing here on the attack and the amount of trap plays or fault lines and support coming through. And it kind of left TTR in moments where they were just alone, holding an angle, and every time they tried to play the retake setup, that was a tough part, right? So you're giving a lot of onto Nerve because it was easy for Core to just set up around the map, and then for Nerve to just go in and plant, pick up an orb, go in and plant, pick up an orb, like just get a thrash every single time, while the rest of their team were just doing their own thing of taking map control.
Yeah.
And when you had the protocol for TTR to try to play the retake style that they wanted to do on the defense, you noticed, and I pointed it out, there's some util that's missing at that point, right? Like missing the util where it's supposed to land, where it's not landing where it's supposed to land, and they're getting punished at the same time for it. So it's more props on how Core was able to not give TTR an opportunity to set anything up on the first seconds of the round, and getting even less numbers in terms of retake potentials, right? You're playing a retake on a 4 versus 5, 3 versus 5, and Core just dominated that side.
9 for 9?
Yeah.
Come on.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's I think that pretty much sums it up right there. There's everything else that y'all said, and just seeing the 9 out of 9 to be ending off on there. Definitely a tough one for TTR, to put it lightly, into here. And again, when we were talking about in the pre-show, when we're looking at Core, everyone's able to be stepping up, and we did get to see that. Zildjious had some great pop-offs here. Van, fifth, top of the leaderboard, some great Cypher gameplay. I mean, Core overall, there was that polish. They seemed to be having fun. They just seemed so comfortable.
Yeah. And I, as much as I was praising Nerve to get free plants, I didn't know that he was also 17-6.
Yeah.
So he was actually supporting the teams in the pulse plants as well. And the ones that are at the bottom, they didn't need to do too much, right? You're just staying behind, smoking and fault lining. And overall, I mean, nobody really needed to pull up their pants and then try to help out wherever they needed to, because the ones that are at the forefront, the tip of the spears to create the space, were doing what they needed to do. So at that point, it's just one of those GG go next. It was almost like every other matchup that we've seen so far, right? MXS, they also had a very slow start on that first map yesterday, you know, and they're one of the top dogs. And M80, they had a slow start, and then we know what happened towards the end. We're not going to talk about that. But overall, it's just they're still the type of team, though, at least for TTR, that they could just reset and go into their map pick, at least, right? They lost 13-2, but it was Core's map pick at that point.
And that's the nice thing. I mean, as long as that Sunset can be water under the bridge, going into the next map here, going into Bind, is an opportunity for them to kind of show us what they're capable of, show us that slow start aside. Well, it's going to be fine. But I'm looking back at this Bind, though, Shift. I'm kind of curious how exactly this one will play out, because it wasn't their best map in the past. It wasn't bad, but we did a good job in the map bans of banning out the best one, and Turtle Troop really needs to regroup here.
Yeah, absolutely. And for what it's worth, we will expect to see a Gecko here for the side of Troop, but it will be on Stellar, likely, not B-Dog, because B-Dog will be playing likely the Brimstone. So there is a difference there, you know, and I think that, again, you know, as controllers and, of course, as Jet, I like B-Dog there. You know, his ability to... or not full controllers, because he plays a lot of Breach as well, but kind of playing that more you know, taking over sections of the map, you know, proactively. I feel like that's where he really shines, more than just kind of throwing up a dizzy and then hoping that the wingman can get the job done. I just feel like his toolkit is better served playing a character like Brimstone. So I'm excited to see if Troop can bounce back in that way. And in particular, we expect B-Dog to not have a 4-12 performance. That's just very atypical. He's a great player. I think this is a map that he can absolutely really shine and show his, you know, full value to a team like Troop.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's time to see in this one between the Turtle and the Hare if Turtle Troop can get their bearing here on the map, too, or if it's going to be a 2-0 for Core. Agent Select's ready. Time to head on over to Bind.
Yeah, and on the other side, we didn't get a chance to talk about Core on this map. No strangers to it. They've played a couple of good ones, and we've got a brand new composition for them. Deadlock in the mix, fans. Give me your story here.
And now you have actually a change on both ends too, because B-Dog's coming out with a Sage. So as much as you're saying, oh, we're going to see him as a controller, he's actually playing a Sentinel role. And I got to say though, just to counter argue what you were mentioning before on the on B-Dog on the Gecko, it's also because one, you're trying to give the duelist role to Corey. You want to play a single duelist, but secondly, it's also you're playing a role where you have to use utility and be the support player more than the one's that's gonna be able to entry or help out the team. So on a map, usually with Turtle Troop, when he's playing a controller, he's gonna use all his smokes. He could still run in and fight, and that's where he shines, right? Because now he doesn't need to use util to support the rest of the team. But now he's playing a Sage. He could do something very similar as if he played the Brimstone in the past. Once he uses his utility and blocks one angle, he can just shoot. But on the other end for Core, yeah, this is awesome that we're coming out here with a Deadlock. And this could be maybe some possibilities of doing a couple of trap plays when they're playing on the defensive side, especially when it comes down to these moments where, you know, you could play Nerve towards the elbow and then you could try to dog out and try to get flashes, and when the hits are coming, you could just throw the wall and keep them behind. But the thing is like usually that happens with like a breach or something like that, and they don't have that type of util to do those stun trap plays. So it's just going to be more standard, I guess, at this point for Core on the defense, when you're placing the sonic sensors at the right spots and making sure that you're stunning Corey on the entries that you're trying to do. And you know, you're throwing at least a barrier into some part at the beginning of the round where you're really making it difficult for TTR to speed up in these moments on their attack side.
Yeah, in principle, the Deadlock, when you think about the map versus her kit, feels like it should fit this map pretty well. I think the thing about it is it does leave you to have to play in choke points, which means that you have to play through the horizontal middle of the map, which I think is, you know, the interesting part about this. So we'll be really curious. I imagine we're going to see a lot of Nerve inside of places like Hookah, inside of places like Showers, and you can already see the barrier matches left over towards Hookah, while Nerve will kind of get to work looking over towards this front side, possibly to lock down Showers, depending on what the contact looks like. There is more than enough to get Nerve out of here if he does feel the pressure.
And that's why you're jiggling, right? So that now you can throw the wall.
Yep.
But the thing is, it's going to give a free orb here for TTR. So they're going to swing first. They can start farming the orb, and now they can work around the map. And that said, though, you can see TTR, they're not really committing into really fast rotating just because they threw a wall into Showers. Because what they could do here is just try to do traps off a sonic sensor into Hookah, get the molly on the other end, TP across, and try to just go for a pinch into Sands. So the situation that they have is that they're still strong side on A. They could support on B. They could delay on B as well because they have the Viper util. So they're still in a good spot on this defensive side despite lack of util.
Well, the sensor stays active through the Trailblazer, through the paint shells. That is key to allow Corey a little bit of extra freedom here. Or pardon me, for Zeldris to have a little bit more freedom on top of the site.
30 seconds left.
Wingman will go out. Defense rotating over. But it's all about if they can actually successfully pull this fake off. And at the moment, it looks like it has. Teleport in, and this is going to be an A plan over towards Shower side.
Oh my god, what a read. A fake Windman throw to pretend that they're planning towards the B site. And then it pulls out the defense towards the A side, and then the wall's already gone, so you could just go for a wall plant and play the pulse plant, and you have to set up.
Just have to dance around her. That's been kind of the key to dealing with Deadlock in the past. We did. First Blood's good. B-Dog still holding over towards the barrier. Looking for contact on both sides. Right clicks are coming through, but Snarly, he's found some success off the back end, and now here comes the flood forward from Core. A couple of kills were decent, but Troops still holding out of their post plant from the front. Smokes are down. B-Dog has to likely step into this. Stellar on the outside, just spamming through smoke. That seems to be working out okay. Snarling has to predict where exactly the shots are going to come from, and he's run out of time. Oh, heck of an opportunity for Core, but like I said, the manipulation of the map just better for Troop.
It looked like when you were looking from the aspect of just looking at that radar that the read was still so good for Core and that they read TTR like a book because they were still holding strong side, 4 players on the A site, and you saw that the players are slowly moving towards B here, and it almost looked like for TTR they were just trying to sell a fake and then just TP back out and then just throw util. But the fact that it was a wingman that they threw out for the fake, that was the biggest tell. That forced Core out of position. If it was like, for example, slow orbs and brimstone smokes, nobody's going to be budging at that point. Yeah. So that was a nice little play by Stellar in the end, in the plan that they have in this piston round to pull Core out of position.
Well, here we go. Weapons on hand now for Troop. Just a couple of sheriffs for the defensive Core. And that's the other thing. I mean, I kind of mentioned it briefly. We'll take a look at it as Corey will find the first float over the top of A. You know, if you get a read on where Nerve is playing from, can you just step away from him? Just, you know, not bother with his utility, because that's really all of it. I mean, if you could keep the deadlock from getting any value out of the barrier mesh, out of the sensors, the character just becomes a body, a warm body on the map.
At least for now, just for Core, it's a gamble stack trying to find players on the B site. Denying plant on B, something like that, just trying to die to spike this time around. Because you know here, B-Dog, he's been farming it up, getting this orb up, ADSing now with the Bulldog, trying to get the res up ASAP. Yeah. Able to get one kill, 1 death, that's 2 orbs for him.
1 enemy remaining.
Yeah,
and the rest is going to be history.
Yeah, some sort of kills. Don't mess with my crew. Pretty calm, pretty collected, pretty casual for the side Troop there in that round. And that's another part of the problem here when we talk about the deadlock setting up against the stage. Is, you know, you have the ability to be more reactive if you're B-Dog and finding value out of the reaction. You know, that barrier orb is just so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with just pistols in that particular round. But outside of that, you know, the ability for B-Dog to essentially counter out a lot of the incoming utility feels a little bit more strong and powerful than what Nerve is able to do, just by principle of what agents are playing. Now, again, this is, you know, maybe over-embellishing a very small fact, but I think the difference in the flex picks here between the Sage and the deadlock really just comes down to who can avoid the weird agent better between these two teams.
If anything, though, for Core, despite having a deadlock, the rest that they have on their stack in their composition, they still have good util to prevent spike plans on wingmans, right? The paint shells are still available, mollies are still available. So you have to figure out here for TTR, they have more of a compositional change. How do you fight against that? It's not going to be on the barrier orb. It's just what protocols do you have to make sure you're able to get the second wave plant.
Well, Zip is surely dead to rights here. Great slow orb. Barrier orb also stops the defense from rotating in. That is very well done for Troop. A couple of trades do come through. Nerve still inside the site, holding their own the best they possibly can. Prowler over the back, not really going to be able to fully connect, at least not until Corey connects with the Outlaw. And B-Dog will just hold his own barrier. Hearing the footsteps of Snarly on the other side. Headshot, no worries. Thanks for the rifle. Zeldris, 1v3. He doesn't really know where B-Dog is, but I think you're right. This has to surely just be a back-off save. Or
especially he got seized. He got seized whenever he threw the satchel in. Yet he still wants to go in for a fight. I mean, this is actually quite good for a bonus round as well. B-Dog with the Sheriff against a rifle. That's a free upgrade. He didn't have to spend too much going into this round. You have 3 players that stayed up and alive here for TTR after you win 3-0. This is actually pretty good. And just to add one more thing here with this barrier orb or the wall you're talking about here for B-Dog, it allows here to just also counter the first wave of util that you're doing over at Core, right? So let's say you go for a wingman plant and you deny plant from your own utility. When you have to actually use your bodies to come in for the plant after, the wall could be useful for that as well. So let's just keep an eye here on TTR now that they're continuously working the map in their favor here on the attack side, and they haven't really had to do too much of a tell. They're starting to actually win their own duels too, compared to what Core was displaying on the first map of Sunset.
Barrier mesh will be used early over towards that front door at Showers. Mosh over the top allows a chance for Troop to plant. Also, the Dizzy finds tons of value on the defenders that are trying to find Sanctuary inside of Lamps. B-Dog over the top on the truck. Difficult spot to be in. Backs off. Has his own heal. Also, the read on the flank is good. Weeded drops the molly. Also hearing the knives. Lots of focus all over the map. But Troop are dealing with it absolutely perfectly. Now they know the last couple of Core members are just playing over towards Spices. And no worries there for Stellar to find the final 2. No antics there out of the Sheriffs. And a 4-0 start for Troop.
Yeah, and now you have a chance here to start building up ult orbs with Stellar and Adder. But already that might not be the play if they're tempoing so quickly so far for TTR and have good control. They might just leverage a nice showstopper to try to get map control and site control on top of that. But the thing is remember, they're playing against a deadlock this time around that has sonic sensors across. There was on that previous round a jump out from Outer that got hit by a stun from one of those sonic sensors and got punished for that. But this time it's a setup towards the A side. A good read coming out from Nerve and the rest of Core to know that the showstopper could potentially be heading towards this area. With the first wave of util. And there's the execution. Annihilation misses.
That's not great news. Core now going to have to vacate the premise and try to play the retake. Barrier Orb up, and we did get a little bit of a boost off of that. Corey also stepping forward, closer towards that front side at Heaven. Takes another with him. So 4v3 retake, again, largely just has to come off of what can Zeldris do with an operator, and they don't even have the comfort to get out of their connector, especially with Adder all the way on top. I mean, this is looking a little bit overcooked in terms of composition, it feels like, for Core.
And this is good for TTR. It was a double boost too, and nobody's going to expect that top when you're dropping down from Heaven, especially when Corey's dead. So that was a nice little element of surprise for Adder to get the pick. And now we talked about the cycling the ults. You didn't need to control in the orbs. You could just tempo up the way that you did. And now you have a res and a thrash to work with in the next round. And you could continue this type of tempo because off a kill could be an instant res.
Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't feel good, I think, for Core. To put it plainly, this does not feel good. It's like shoes literally on the opposite foot here from what we saw in map number 1.
Yeah.
Which, like, games like this are so hard to break down when you've got 2 new compositions. And
It's so fun to watch.
It can be.
So fun to watch.
It's just, I want to see where Core feel like this comp can really thrive, because right now Troop just look like they're just moving around Nerve. I mean, yeah, he's got a couple of eliminations, but there's been no proactivity from Core like we saw on Sunset. We're just not getting that same kind of Zeldris pop off.
They don't really, well, they really can't right now, right? It's a similar story as Sunset, where Core wasn't giving a chance here for TTR to really set up for anything and get a good feel. And especially when you're coming out with a deadlock, it's like, oh, this is actually built for us to anti the Gecko and Brimstone or whatnot. And then TTR is coming out with their own kind of thing. So now you just have to readjust on the fly. So when you're not giving them a chance to adapt to what you're trying to do with this new comp that you're coming out, then this is the results that you see.
It's just one of those things that's like, and this has been the issue. We saw a lot of teams like midway through stage 1 trying to play well a deadlock on Sunset in particular, where it's just like, if the utility doesn't find value, you're not getting any value out of the agent. And very regularly do we really see, or irregularly do we see the sensors and the barrier meshes causing too much of a distraction where it completely congests an entire squad. So I'm not inspired yet, I'll put it that way. But you're right. Troop have thrown their own monkey wrench into the system here. Yeah.
And even at that, even look at the discipline. Remember what the idea of having Stellar as your IGL. You saw they were trying to hunt down the last 2 kills and prevent the last 2 players from saving their weapons. But then he's like, no, fall back. We don't want to give an opportunity for a pit coming out here from the opposite side. We don't want Zeldris to get closer to a showstopper. We want them to work for these kills, to work for the orb control, and that's where we can maybe punish them at the same time.
Yeah.
So at least for Core, they're able to buy around this rifle and the op that they saved on the previous round. And Corey is also bringing his own op on this right side, or sorry, on Hookah to start things off.
Zeldris, chance here, connects. Well done.
Oh, nice.
Here's an opportunity for Core to start things off on the right foot, literally. Nightfall still available, though, if TTR can maybe get into a position, but it does look like with Showers not being available, they may need to take all focus over towards B here.
And the bigger note here is the kill that they got was B-Dog with the res. So there's not going to be a reset to go back to a 5-on-5. And it was a nice control, actually, from Zeldris. Just making sure that he's going to wait until the last second to try to capitalize somebody swing behind the Prowler and lands a nice off shot. Oh!
Now the Nightfall can be spent. Wingman can get to work. Sensor does
We'll get a
hit,
plant.
but doesn't make a difference. Spike still gets planted, and now Nerve has to teleport back over to be a part of the play. This, of course, will alert Adder to take the 1v1 there eventually. The rest of the focus for Core from the front needs to find value and needs to find it quickly.
Oh, this is good, though. The flash went into showers and it didn't ping anybody. So Adder has an opportunity for a kill, and we'll get it.
Paint Shells get the self-trade, though. Corey still holding on the corner. Has weapons to swap back and forth between.
Reflank on showers.
Yep. And no one's expecting it. We did. Does lose his 1v1 on the inside, but Zeldris having re-earned the paint shells really can't go any further. Maybe a chance if he wanted the showstopper, but there's not a lot of time. And yeah, as soon as Stellar comes off that repinch like you called out, it's just not an opportunity for Core to work their way back in. So first blood tallied. Round does not. And on top of that, Corey gets the read on Zeldris to take every single player out of the picture. 7-0 for Troop.
And look at the money that's left. Yes, Gnarly's going to buy a weapon, but look at the rest of the buy. It's so bad. So he's going to have to resell that. Core pulling out a timeout, and Core having to figure out something and scratch anything from the brains of T-Dog and the coaching staff to see if they have a solution into these last few rounds that kind of went out here for TTR. Because if I'm trying to look at it from my end with my small brain, TTR has shown so many different hands so far here on the side that it comes down to, okay, how can we maximize our playstyle with our composition when it comes down to a gun round, right? And that's something that Ocean and Slow has to figure out here with T-Dog.
Yeah, man, it's there's many different ways to slice a loaf of bread. And right now the loaf of bread for Core is figuring out what the issue is. And there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. I think the thing about it is you don't want to be changing your entire playbook, your default setup, but
Correct.
At the same rate, 0 is for 7 with post-plant success all over the place for Troop. It's just, do you try to maybe gamble stack with an extra player instead of trying to be finessey, kind of like this has been so far? Do you try to contest more with Nerve? It's hard to get a read, and I think you kind of have to change your core principles in the first 45 seconds of the round if you want to make some good adjustments here.
Yeah. And that Fade coming in right now for TTR is such a good agent right now to have in your composition too. Fade still showing a lot of value despite a couple of small nerfs that went onto her kit a couple of patches ago, and that's trying to find these righty angles, right? In these corners of bind where if somebody's going to be hiding in the cubby of short, somebody's going to try to hide close towards the entrance of shower. And when it comes into contact, if it's not being shot and people are falling back at the same time, it gives you a tell that that's more space that's given. So in that case, if you're trying to counter a Fade directly, or you're going to try to do a buddy system that could bait out the Fade Prowler, and while they're pushing forward to gain that space, you have the off angle for the bait and switch. But that's a huge high risk, high reward, and you're hoping for your fraggers like Zeldris in those positions could get a kill right away.
Yeah. Well, with the benefit of numbers, Trooper trying to just force their way into A. They do get punished by one Sheriff shot, but largely speaking, with, again, the barrier orb the way it is, they can bait out the orbital strike. Corey can continue to do Corey things.
It's not missing.
Yeah, he really isn't. And when Corey's playing like this, man, we've seen it across every team he's played on. It's hard to beat whatever squad he happens to be on.
Yeah. And you just saw it right here, right? As soon as they denied the plant with the orbital strike, that wall was still up, came back in for a plant, and it's a safe one. So that's another reassurance when you're not able to get a plant with a wingman. In TTR, they have a method behind the madness, behind the question mark of why is B-Dog also using his Vandal like a devil stick, just pivoted around in front of him. But jokes aside, why they pulled out a stage where usually you don't see it on this map anymore.
Also, Van's ace wash for the 7th time today.
True.
Please.
Will it manifest?
Please. No!
Nope. B-Dog steals it. Yeah, at least Core didn't die.
True, very true, very true.
I mean, we still have a lot of Valorant left, right? At this rate, at 8-0, we should be seeing a third map, so there's other opportunities to potentially get an ace today.
It's very true. But speaking of running out of time, Core?
Yeah, I need to go to bed. Oh, you're talking about that at the game. No. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Insert meme of guys poking thing with stick. Come on, do something. we want to see what this deadlock can provide.
It almost feels like it's TTR doing the same movement that T-Dog did at the end of the first map, where he found that it's a snooze game. But TTR, I mean, at this moment, this is such an early wall that's being thrown by Core.
Yeah.
So I guess now they're trying to leverage this to try to get early information of where the pressure could be going, right, in the first place. But you see the paranoia starting to settle in. You have an instant rotate going back towards the B side because you don't know for TTR, is it going to be a default this time around? Or are they going to pop quickly? And you're already going to have to pop Seekers at a minute left. And because you're so spread across the site at a default here for TTR, you still have no information where the real hit is coming from.
Yep. Absolutely right. And there's even a Trailblazer behind that play too. So now all of the onus falls into the lap of TTR. Late Viper's Pit congests the front side at B, but again, the stack at Showers is going to be uncontested, essentially, after that barrier mesh drops. You've got...
And look at that. Stellar let himself get pinged out by the Sky Flash, so that it pulled out one player, and it's weak enough for TTR to execute here. Oh, what a showstopper.
Orbital strike, Snarly's in trouble. Oh, yeah. Couldn't get out of there. Nerve trying to step into the play, and he gets pushed right out. Yikes. So Plant will come in. Corey's going to deny anyone else from joining the party. And we're going to go to a 9-0 start where...
Felt like I've seen this before.
Yep. I mean, yeah.
I felt like I've seen this before. In a different game, but I've seen this before.
Man.
It's going back to the TSM game earlier on tonight. And also the one-sided to start things up. What was it, like a 10-2 half at the beginning here for Core?
Yeah.
In this first map of Sunset?
Yep.
But this is 8 rounds on the attack side too for TTR.
And the thing is, like, this comp is just as good defensively for Troop. Man. Well, an effort was made, it feels like, at this point. But not looking all that great. And to be fair, and this is something we talked about briefly, it's just like, this is one of those maps. We saw it for Troop in the past where it's just like, do they even know what comp they want to play? Core has been in that same ballpark. They've tried playing a Reyna on this map with the Brimstone. They tried playing a KO with an Astra. Like, there's just so many fundamentals of what the composition is meant to do have changed. And this one, I think, is go back to the lab time, because your initiator at 1-9 is not great news. Yeah.
There.
Now we're flooding. I mean,
yep. This is literally looking at the opposite end of Core versus CTR, where you're so confident that you know everything's working in your favor. You could just run it down. Losing a round is not too good. I mean, or not too bad, rather. You've already guaranteed 9 rounds on your end on the attack side, potentially even 10, as you're still getting these trades.
Last player standing.
it's one of those things like we were talking about in the last map for Troop when they were getting to the end of the map, where it's just like, go back to the default of just hold W, flood something, because we don't know what we want to do. Now it's the opposite of hold W because we're just better. Like, it's just, we're dealing with complete paradoxes in this series so far.
I'm liking this so far, though. This first kill, sorry, from B-Dog in a 1 versus 3. Now I can start pushing up towards long B. If there wasn't any proactiveness from Core. Oh no! My God!
I am not just your healer.
And
that's right. I am not just your healer. I am your fragger. B-Dog, beautiful clutch in the end from Zippo. And I was just about to mention that, like, if they're not being proactive around the map to try to win this 2 versus 1 for Core, this gives a chance for B-Dog to find information of potentially where the last 2 players could be in TP and go towards the A side and plant. But instead, they went for a jiggle peek, and unfortunately not the double wide swing to get the information, and then they both got punished here by B-Dog. Beautiful round, 10-0 half now.
Oh, man. It goes from bad to worse that quickly.
Oh, yeah. Monster on the loose.
Thrash out. That's spent over towards Hookah. Oh, and the Prowler does get essentially shut down over towards his play at B main. Also an early teleport for Zeldris, but there is a barrier orb there, my guy. No. And a lot of nades that he's just trying to bounce up and over from. Mosh.
Oh.
Shrapnel from every form of ability that Valorant can provide. And they know that Zeldris is stuck inside of this teleporter, and they may force him to shoot this down as they kill Noise to create a little bit more doubt here in the core setup.
Look at his position behind the wall. So he's made it out, but as soon as it breaks, and unfortunately, even if they score first blood and there's no more smokes here for TTR, they're still trying to make a move. They're still trying to find information. Whoa! How does that get a full damage kill?
Great question. But a snap heard around the world right there. Troop still committed to playing through and into B here. How do they clear this one out? And the answer is they don't. No one even looks over towards Elbow. T-Dog confirms there's another player nearby, and that's enough for Zeldris to stay back. Paint shells re-earned, go up and over. Busy out, and the timing of that not great. So Zeldris makes the most of being stuck inside the teleporter, and Core will get their first round.
They had to take a judge and some shenanigans here for Core to get the first round. And for Zeldris to basically activate with that judge, just to be like, you know what? We're trailing behind 0 to 10. Let's just activate somewhere on the map. Let's just be crazy just like they are. And it worked out. Under the chaos, they were still able to capitalize on a round here. It just renders things very difficult, though, for TTR. Remember, they lost the smoke right at the beginning of the round, which forced them to default a little bit more and force Core to move up against them. And you saw the discipline coming through, playing more further back, just allowing the judge to activate. And this is what I'm talking about right here. So these type of positions, right? Zeldris plays the corner. I mean, he's going to get spotted by the Boombot. Oh, maybe not. So the Prowler, if it actually spots the players down towards the staircase from Ziff or from the Brimstone that's currently being played here by Snarly, then it gives a chance right now for Zeldris to get the shot. But instead, nobody shot it.
I mean, that's no stone unturned right there from Troop. After the Boombot gets denied, they still clear out that corner. Damage gets tallied, but again, healed up, so we're good. Everyone's back close to 100% HP. Dizzy to clear out Hookah. Defensive wall goes up. There are sensors in place here to try to keep Nerve a little bit more safe. Zeldris in the corner, seen by Stellar. Opening damage is decent, but Zeldris still wins the gunfight. But Corey, come on, through the box doesn't make a difference. T-Dog only tallies up the trade, and we got a spike plant 3v2.
And walled up towards Elbow. Last two players are forced to come here towards spawn. And B-Dog understands here that he doesn't want to give a free kill, so they're going to play the protocols for TTR. Smoke, and to go for the swing on contact.
All right, this crossfire setup is so good, though. Yeah, we did. Sure is. No worries there. B-Dog finishes it off 11-1 the half. And it's been an interesting series. We have yet to have a competitive map of VALORANT between these two teams. To put it plainly. But a bounce back map for B-Dog for sure, but it's just the Corey show right now. He is feasting on this core setup.
Dude, 19 kills in 12 rounds and with operators.
Yeah.
Which then means, imagine if he was on a raise and he was just like running just like Zeldris did.
Yeah.
You got to give a chance for the rest of the team to basically try to get some ult orbs on your end. So that's why he's holding it up. Just trying to be a team player at this point. But Core, not done yet. Already trying to go for an early setup. A graph net to be thrown here towards the showers. So they could try to get a flash and contact to see if anybody's moving in there. And the rest are going to try to flood towards short. So Adder's going to have to come up huge here with this ghost.
Well,
No escape.
focus is a bit limited. Adder, did he see much on that cross? Hard to say. Backing up for a bit of safety. Dizzy will be spent to contest this plan, and the timing of it actually may be perfect. Corey will peek with that.
Ooh, that timing.
Snarly nearly jumps right into the sky smoke, and that almost gives him a lease on life right there. But the problem here is they cannot get the spike planted, Core. So they have to back off, rotate over, and we did, even though he's just got a classic, will still be able to kind of meet this. Tough shots, but still is able to tally another. So I'll tell you, Troop rotating well. Gonna have to do it again, though, as here comes Core back to A.
And they have a seize this time around, too. On the second time, they try to go for a plant for Core, so they might decay some people. But Ziff is trying to walk in. Denied.
Well, this clearance of U-Hauls is going to be hard-pressed, you'd think. This is just raw VALORANT gameplay here. Not a lot of utility left for either side. Spike faked. Now will be committed for the plant. Long lurk from Stellar.
One enemy
B-Dog
remaining.
trying to get held over towards the front side of connector, but no. Instead, the kill comes out from the other side. B-Dog gets freebie, and Troop will be on map point just like that.
We're definitely catching up here to the tech pause that we had in the previous series at this point. Everything's back to regular schedule time, chat. Map point for TTR. Looking to push this into Icebox.
Match point.
What can you really say at this point here? I mean, those shots were just landing. They're like, we didn't even have a smoke to cover up towards Hookah when Core TP'd across, and it was a 2 versus 1. Yet there was still enough time to kill TTK, or we did, to get 1 kill with the classic before he falls.
Well, here we go.
Time for Core to reset.
What's that?
It's time for Core to reset and just GG go next map.
Yeah. I mean, if we get 3 maps at 13-2 or worse, I don't think I've ever seen that in the history of me casting down.
It's very competitive on both ends. At least now they got information on Corey. They got the information on one playing towards U-Haul, and now put into account an outlaw on the top of heaven.
Oh, but Weeded is still lingering in this smoke. Does anyone bother to try even think about clearing this?
Guardian with a stinger, though.
Yeah. Prowler's on the way. Smoke is still here. Timing is decent, but Ziff with a snap. Wow, headshot there. Adder trying to re-clean over towards U-Hauls. T-Dog trying to back up and does just barely enough to avoid the 1-shot kill from the judge. Now the double swing in, and nothing there for Troop. Core force buying the rest of the way. At least get their second here.
Indeed, that was a sick flick coming out there from Ziff. And it almost looked here for Weeded inside of the smoke was initially trying to get the plant spike planter rather. And then secondly, whenever Stellar threw that season and actually caught somebody, that's a player that's decayed, which was Ziff, which should have typically guaranteed that kill, at least for Weeded. Yet that flicked allowed the upgrade for the Guardian and for Core to capitalize that on a win. So now we have a potential to mirror the results on the last 2 of the previous map. 12-2 now in favor of TTR. And nope, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're going to see Core now win a round.
Outlaw strong.
Yep. Especially in the right hands, and that's in Zeldris' hands.
He could put it in his left hand if he wanted to. It doesn't matter. See what I did
That
there,
was in his left hand.
Yeah. Man, we should not be allowed to be on broadcast together. Golly. 2v5 situation for Troop to put this one away. Not looking good for it. Teleport out. Nerve is already watching it, trying to bait out some shots is Corey. But there's help here. Zeldris, Outlaw, doing Outlaw things. They get 3. Okay. Now we got a full purchase coming up, though, for the Sentry.
Yep. But right now, at least what was really good here for a Core is getting those kills on Zeldris, picking up an orb. He's already got Showstopper and a bonus. So that, for me, is a great way to keep control here of the situation for Core and take the best of your advantage. Using our Guardian to try to entry first, which actually I'm quite surprised for, because if you lose a round here, it's over. Might as well just buy a full gun. T-Dog should also upgrade. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, he's got Showstopper, so I mean, maybe we're playing for the long con here of. In case
but you're gonna close the gap with a Showstopper, right?
Yeah.
Get a Vandal after.
Well, here comes the Showstopper towards Halls. We did able to go 1 for 1. Not bad, all things told. Really, from either side, you get U-Haul's control, but you also are in 4v4. So both teams probably pretty happy with the result. T-Dog able to get the spike planted. Prowler does not all the way get in towards the site. So now it's just down to Troop jumping off the high ground through smoke on the retake. That's not an easy task, although Corey gets a free exit. So now it's just down to, can they sniff out this deep post plant, which has snake, well, no snake bites actually, just a molly. Dizzy over the top, allows a pretty easy elimination. Wall goes down, B-Dog trying to stick it. Corey trying to also push through at the same rate, but this post plant looking pretty good. Showstopper's out, Stellar trying to hold. And Ziff gets pushed off, and they will hold it.
That's too good.
Yeah, 13-3. One better than the 13-2, but still 13-3.
I don't know if you saw it, chat, as well. Despite the wall being broken and then they were spraying at B-Dog, the person that was just behind it was doing alley-oop and jump shots just trying to block the molly.
Yeah.
So they blocked the brimstone molly. It fell towards the front, and then they used the B-Dog wall to go for the full defuse. So, chat, I saw some people in the chat wondering, why the hell you're picking a Sage in that composition? Well, that was probably one of the main reasons why as well. Before we saw this beautiful defuse. So at least when you're looking from Core's perspective in the second map, they were able to get 3 rounds instead of TTR's 2 rounds on the first map.
Speed run on both sides.
Yep.
The old DoorDash challenge.
Yep. Of course.
Well, I don't really know how to react to that besides the fact that it was another one-sided map. Let's put it plainly. Two comps very different from what we normally see, which does bring its own kind of uniqueness and fun and some excitement.
Yeah.
But for the one side, maybe better than the other. We'll send away for a brief break, bring Sierra back to see how her brilliant mind can break that map down, and we're back with map number 3 here in our final series of the night right to this.